Today I'll be going over everything you need to know about planted aquarium lighting, what kind of light you should get, and important tips to help you choose the best light for your planted tank. We're going to start off with key features to look for. The first thing is obviously the size of the light. Most aquarium lights are going to give you a range, and that range refers to the extendable brackets. These things allow you to adjust the size of the light to the size of your tank. However, just because your tank is, say, 24 inches, you shouldn't buy a light that is 18 to 24 inches. You want it to be slightly over to ensure that there's not any spots where the light can't reach. This can cause lighting deficiencies in parts of your tank, and ideally you want the minimum length in the range to be close to the actual aquarium size. You should also make sure that the light is from a good brand. I also recommend checking out the warranties. Some brands that don't offer warranties are going to make you pay yourself if anything ever goes wrong. So that's something you should check. Now, as you're looking for products, you may come across these hood lights. These are typically found in starter kits when you purchase a new aquarium. It's going to come with this existing light attached onto a hood. Sometimes those hoods are sold individually. Now, the problem with this is that these lights aren't really designed to be for planted tanks because they lack the RGB spectrum light that's super important for plant growth. They're also known for causing algae, and this is why I highly recommend, if you haven't already, to purchase lights specifically for plants. And it doesn't have to be anything super fancy. There's plenty of different brands out there. Just make sure that it's actually a light for planted tanks and not just a hood. Another thing you should realize is that fish are not picky to light unlike plants. So whenever you choose a light, it's always about what the plants need, never the fish. Many LED lights will work, eBay lights and Amazon lights. Make sure they're suitable for planted tanks. There's certain types of lighting that will work for low-tech planted tanks, and also types that are better for high-tech. And there's also some lights that will work for both high and low. One of the brands that I recommend for this is Seaoura, which is the sponsor of today's video. They recently sent me this 18 to 24 inch full spectrum planted LED light, which I use for my 10-gallon Endlord tank. The cool thing about this light is there's so many aspects where you can adjust and customize. And when I say customize, it literally lets you customize the light exactly how you want it to be at the exact time you want it to. And the features here are complicated but really cool. It allows you to set the different cycles, including what time of day you want it to be on, as well as the intensity of the light during different times of the day. You could set it to low light or high. This light is able to go super low and super high, easily adjustable, and it works with a variety of plants and tanks. The timer can be used to easily suit the lighting to your needs. You can choose different sizes ranging from 12 inches all the way up to 54 inches, which is like 75 gallons and more, depending on the length. Really nice light. You can get it under $100. Link to the Seaoura light is in the description if you want to go check it out. Full spectrum lighting is basically designed to mimic natural sunlight as close as possible, and it covers the entire visible light spectrum, which includes all colors of light, so red, green, blue. This is absent in many aquarium hood lights where it's only a yellow LED, which isn't the best for plant growth. Make sure to check if the light allows you to dim if you plan on adjusting the light intensity. That's going to be a really nice feature to have. It's also useful to check whether it's waterproof or not, because for a lot of aquarium lights, they will get destroyed if they fall into your fish tank. Happened with one of my first aquarium lights, and half the lights basically stopped working. As for the duration of your lighting, it really depends on the type of plants you're keeping. For the majority of lights, or if you're just starting out, normally people go with around 8 hours of lighting. This is going to vary heavily depending on whether you have low light or highlight plants. Low light or highlight plants refer to the intensity of the light, not the duration. A lot of people get this confused. They think that low light just means lower duration of light, when it's actually referring to how strong the light is. So for example, a highlight plant kept in low intensity for a longer duration is not going to thrive. And that's just because the longer duration doesn't change the fact that it's in a low intensity light. For highlight plants, usually they get around 8 to 10 hours of lighting. For low light plants, they get around 6 to 8. For a medium light planted aquarium, the typical range of lighting is around 6 to 9 hours. So the duration still matters, whether it's low, medium, or high light. It's also important not to keep high light and low light plants together, unless the low light plants are provided with shadier areas, because if they all are under the exact same light, they're going to be receiving different intensities, and it's either going to work for the low light or it's going to work for the high light plants. It's super important that you know what kind of plants you're getting and whether or not they're suitable for your planted tank. It is possible to meet in the middle where the light is enough for highlight plants, but without destroying the low light. When you're setting up a new planted tank, it's really helpful to keep the lighting slightly more dim at the beginning when setting up in order to prevent any algae growth when the plants are first starting out. That's just a little tip that you might want to keep in mind. One thing people look for when making sure their light is bright enough is the PAR rating. PAR stands for photosynthetically active radiation. In other words, the amount of plant growing light that is being provided. Don't get this confused with lumens, which is how bright a light appears to the human eye, not the brightness that is usable by plants, which is PAR. With a PAR rating, low light is usually around 20 to 40 PAR, medium 40 to 50, and highlighting 50 to 100 plus. The vast majority of aquarium plants can do good in a PAR rating from around 20 to 60. Now, if the product doesn't list this anywhere, you can do a simple Google search or just simply avoid any unusually deep fish tanks. My number one biggest tip to provide stable lighting is to use a timer. This is so important if you want to keep consistent lighting, especially for aquascaping with all the sensitive high-tech plants. Even for regular planted tanks, you have to use a timer. It's really hard to manually turn on the light at the exact same time every single day. Having a timer not only is going to help you with that, but it also ensures that the lighting is consistent. You just can't do it every single day, and it's really something you shouldn't be thinking about all the time. I recommend using an analog timer. You could buy these for a couple bucks off of Amazon. These work just as good for your fish tanks. I know there's some aquarium lighting companies that make these custom timers. Those work as well, but I think an analog timer is straightforward and easy to use. There's also certain brands of lights that come with a timer themselves, such as, again, the Seaoura light, which allows you to program when you want it to turn it on or off, as well as many other features. Usually those are going to cost you a bit more than the standard planted tank light, so it depends on what you're looking for. Analog timers are what I like to go for. You could get them at a really cheap price, under $10. I'll leave a few affiliate links in the description below, so check those out if you're interested. As for the placement of your light, you want to make sure that the lights cover the entire tank. Like I said before, the size range should be at least a few inches larger than the actual length, so there's no gaps at the ends, and the light can fully cover your tank. Again, make sure your light is bright enough. If it's super tall or, like weirdly shaped, you need to make sure your light's reaching the bottom. If you get your tank from Petco or a common source where they sell typical 10, 20, 30 gallon tanks, you shouldn't worry about this too much. Also, when you have a clip-on light, make sure that it's able to provide for all areas of the tank. This is especially true if you have a long tank where the clip-on might not reach the full tank. In terms of placement, you should try your best to keep the aquarium out of direct sunlight, because whether you realize it or not, sunlight can be really strong on the plants, and it's really good at growing algae. That's probably the biggest issue with sunlight. Very unnecessary. The other problem is that sunlight isn't always consistent, so you could get a lot of sunlight here and a little another time. A lot of beginners think that sunlight is just additional lighting, but again, it's very unneeded and causes a bunch of trouble. Examples of low-tech lighting companies are Nicrew, Haiger, and Seaoura, as I mentioned earlier. Some examples of higher-end lighting are Fluval, Chihiro's, and Twinstar. Either way, get yourself a full-spectrum plant light. Your plants are going to thank you for it. If you're keeping medium light plants, or if you have a fish-only tank, say for your cichlids, then around 8 hours of lighting will be ideal. Another option is to split up the lighting, so you could do, say, 4 hours in the morning, break for 3 hours, and then another 4 hours in the evening. This is known as the Siesta lighting period, where many people have claimed success in combating algae, with the reason being that the break prevents algae from getting continuous light. I have actually tried this myself, and I have found it to slow down algae growth. One thing I've learned over the years is that if you ever have a balanced tank with the light on a certain way, the best thing to do is to just leave everything be and not change anything with the light. Don't try to play with it, make it brighter or dimmer. I've actually made the mistake many times where I switched the light levels after the plant settled in, and my crypts ended up not being able to adjust properly. A lot of them ended up melting. Takeaway here is once you've reached a stable lighting that your plants do well under, don't make any further changes. My other tip is quite the opposite, and it's to raise or dim the light if algae grows too fast. If you're ever battling algae in the tank and the light has something to do with it, which it almost always does, you should definitely try minimizing the lighting or at least dimming the light so that it helps reduce algae. The durations that I gave earlier, 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, those are just standard guidelines. They're not set in stone, and it's really likely that you're going to go off track based on circumstance. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe down below. The links to all the products mentioned are in the description. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.